Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. This is episode 115. And I have Coach Zack Fleming on. We'll get into his bio here in just a little bit, right after we go through our sponsors. And like always, we talk about it every week. We're just thankful for TeamBuildr and PowerLift. Those two have been with us for a huge amount of time. TeamBuildr from the very beginning and PowerLift not too far behind them. And those two sponsors allow us to keep on keeping on. And man, I enjoy both their products, so I'm not ashamed to keep on plugging them. So TeamBuildr is a leading software for high schools and colleges, providing coaches the ability to write programs online, generate over 13 reports, and even train athletes remotely for side income. Right now, if you sign up with code BigTime, you'll receive a free APRE programming template, which works automatically within TeamBuildr. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day. Automate your programming without outsourcing your programming with TeamBuildr. So TeamBuildr, like I said, they've been with us all the way through. It's awesome when you kind of get to learn a little bit more of how they like to help coaches out. The podcast that they started, a little plug there if you guys want to jump over and listen to their podcast too. And just happy that they're on board. And then PowerLift. PowerLift is the leading manufacturer and distributor of heavy-duty strength training equipment for collegiate and high school athletic performance centers around the world. PowerLift brings over 20 years of experience to the strength and conditioning world. All products are manufactured in their state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Jefferson, Iowa. They're proud to support all coaches making it big time where they're at. I had the opportunity a few years ago. They put on a clinic there every year. You got to go over and see kind of their manufacturing and how it all works. And it's a bunch of old farmers that are good at welding, and they built this into a world facility. I mean, like they manufacture for places around the world, and it's really cool to see their process and how passionate all these guys are about their craft. So PowerLift, pretty cool people, pretty awesome stuff. Mike Richardson is your contact for that, and you can find his stuff in the show notes. So thank you to PowerLift also. So great sponsors, but we're not just here to talk about the sponsors. We have to get to the actual show. So I'm excited to talk with Coach Fleming today. Coach is at Dobyns-Bennett High School in Tennessee, and he's been there since March 2015. He was a graduate assistant at Carson-Newman University in Jefferson City, Tennessee, prior to that. And he's going to talk a little bit about that experience and then dive into what it's been like at his high school and then fill us in with any gaps. But before we jump into that, I want to give just like a little bit of background to how I got to know him a little bit. And coaches seems like he's on the path of always trying to be the best that he can be. And that's really exciting for me. And that's why, like when we say making the big time where we're at, when you are pouring into your kids, you're pouring into your community. I think that's such a cool deal. And this spring I had the opportunity, we did like a class together where we're just talking about systems-based training, what it looks like to implement a system, what a system actually looks like, and how to roll that out for your student athletes, and just a kind of a change of thought in how you think about our jobs and how we think about our day-to-day activities. So that was a pretty cool experience, but it was also really cool just to sit down. Each week we'd have meetings and we get to hear other strength coaches talk from around the nation. And Coach was one of those that I'd listen to weekly. And great stuff. Excited to hear what he's got to say. And Coach, maybe take it over from there. Fill us any gaps that you have with that background, anything that you want to tell us about, and then we'll hop into some questions.
Sounds good. Hey, appreciate you having me on here. So yeah, background, I actually played at Carson-Newman, played football, and I somehow got recruited to throw the javelin for a year or two while I was down there. It was pretty fun. I was actually an undergrad. In undergrad, I was a youth ministry major down there. And at some point along my career, I had a couple shoulder surgeries. I went to my coach one day and I was like, listen, I want to help. Like, I'm in a sling. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm useless right now. Is there anything I can help do? And he said, well, I mean, we can always help. We got a lot of young kids. You can go help me out with them. And so then I started really getting an opportunity just to kind of help out. And I don't want to call it coaching per se. It was kind of like getting me off to the side, but it felt like, man, this is it. Like, I know I was taking youth ministry classes, and like I was working at church, and that was great and had a great experience. But man, I really felt like youth ministry is not necessarily being a youth pastor. It can be whatever. It doesn't have to be in a church. It can be a ministry. It can be a lifestyle. And so at that point, I started any chance I could get into coaching. And I started off, like most of us, with football. So I dove in. Any chance I could go coaching football, I'd go do it. And stayed on at Carson-Newman, and they gave me the opportunity. You know, I always really liked the weight room, but they gave me the opportunity to help in the weight room. And so I know I was a youth ministry undergrad. That was my major. But I was taking exercise science classes because I was interested in it. I was reading whatever I could. I was asking questions in the weight room. So I felt like I kind of knew what was going on without actually having the real education behind it. So I was working to get that. But just the more I spent time coaching kids in the weight room as compared to the field, man, I loved doing both. But I knew if it ever came down to it, I was going to pick the weight room. And so I stayed as GA, like I said, with football and in the weight room for a couple of years. When my time came up, I called my old high school head coach because I think he knows every coach in America. I said, hey, I'm just looking for a job. You know, if you know anybody, just let me know and I'll be happy to talk to him. He called me about 2 weeks later, said he needed a defensive line coach, and there was a grant-funded position that wasn't going to be there in 3 months. So if I wanted to take a risk and come back up here, I got my foot in the door. Long story short, I took over the strength program. They liked it, and they made the position for me. And so I've been here ever since. You know, I know during that time, like I said, I'm the full-time strength coach. It's all I do. During that time, I went and got formal education in Southern Utah. Like I got a real exercise science degree. But man, it's been a fun process so far.
Coach, that's awesome. I love hearing about the investment in kids and youth, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, like you said, and I think you found a great niche to do it in, because if there's anything that can just be a day-to-day delivery of I don't know, being a light to kids, it's strength and conditioning. I really believe that, and that's part of the reason why I love it so much. Tied into that, you have to put in a lot of thought of what it's going to be like when kids walk through your door. What's it going to be like in the weight room? How are you going to be the person that they need in their lives? So if you could describe the culture of your program and what it would be like for a kid walking in, and maybe the first little bit of getting to know you, what would that be like?
If you knew me when I first started and what I am now, I'm different. I coach very differently. And so not like I was this awful human being beforehand. I'm not saying all that, but I've learned, I had to learn. I mean, I didn't have like education classes. I didn't know how to manage a weight room or a classroom. I didn't understand, like I knew college football. I knew how to coach those kids, and you do that a certain way. That doesn't necessarily work with my high school freshman girls. Like, I love them. They're awesome. Listen, if I didn't have them in my life, like they changed my life. But you know, when you go into the weight room, I took this from our FCA guy in the region. His name's Brad Perry. He's a great dude. And I'm going to butcher it because I can't ever get it right, but it's a touch, a hug, and a smile, something along those lines. A word, a touch, and a smile. And so all that means, I've talked to every kid, I've smiled at every kid, and appropriately, not right now because we're in COVID, I've given them a hug or something, you know. And so I think the culture is just that every single kid matters. You know, there's not, oh, you're our all-state, all-region quarterback, and you're the stud, like you're the best ever, and you matter more than anybody else. What's your name again? You don't play a sport. There is none of that. And I listen. I got to remind myself that I'm not perfect in my mind. I do kind of sometimes like, oh, I got to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. Every single kid that the Lord has trusted me with in that weight room is important, and then they're in there for a reason. You know, maybe I don't know what it is. Maybe it's maybe that day they need something from me. Maybe they just need me to plant a seed that comes up later. But if I've been trusted with them in the weight room, I've got the responsibility to love on them. And you know, that does not mean that I'm taking it easy on them. That does not mean that at all. But I've got to love on them if they're ever going to accomplish the things that they need to accomplish in life. And if that means lifting more weight or running a faster 40, great. If that means they're slower and they're weaker, but they're better human beings, that's great too. But that I really had to change from, you come in, I say this, you do this, there's no questions, period, to talking to every kid, knowing their name, knowing their story, loving them. And I think there's a lot of fear-based coaching, but I think love-based coaching really can, like fear-based coaching, you can win championships that way. We see it all the time. But I think love-based coaching, you can win championships that you can't win on the field, that you can win, I mean, all throughout life. And you can impact generations and generations that way. So that's the culture I'm trying to instill. And I know I don't do it perfect every time, but that's what we're working towards.
Hey, let me pull out a few things from there. When you coach the person before the athlete, I think that is a huge deal. When you think that there's still room to grow, I think that's a huge deal. And when you know that it's not just what they do on the field, the court, the mat, the track, whatever it is, it's more than that. I think that's a great perspective. And so many times we hear coaches talk about this, right? You can flip on a ton of podcasts and listen to how coaches do that, and to dive in and be that methodical and to have that background that you have, and just to be so intentional with it, I think is very, very important. Tell me, like, that mindset shift for you, was that a transformation that happened that just permeated everything too? Like when you went from kind of the hard-nosed college strength coach, right? You're a graduate assistant, and you go down to high school and you're like, okay, this is the way to do it. And then you said, maybe this isn't the way to do it. What did that look like? How did kids respond? What's it really look like once you make that switch?
I think I've always prioritized relationships with kids, and I've always talked about that, and I've always tried to do that. I actually remember right before my first daughter was born, I remember the kids saying, Coach, man, you're going to be so soft after you have a kid. And because, again, I was still pretty – for a couple of years, man, it was my way or the highway. And, like, you really – there was no – it was a flip of the switch how I could get mad. Why aren't you doing – And when my first daughter was born, I don't want to say it was instantly, but it was maybe a day or two later. It didn't soften me up, but it made me realize that if I'm going to have a standard, I've got to be able to teach the standard, and I've got to live the standard, and I've got to love the standard, and I've got to I got to present the standard in a way that the kids want to do it. Like we talked a little bit earlier on, my daughter right now, Kylie, we got to go brush your teeth. No, I don't want to brush my teeth. Well, my initial response, what I want to say, and sometimes I do say, is I don't care what you want. We're going to go brush your teeth because I said so. Well, what do you think she's going to say? No, she's going to run off. She's going to kick, scream, and fight. Like that. How is that instilling anything good in her? Like I want her to enjoy brushing her teeth because I want her to have a beautiful smile one day, Like I can't just grab her by the rear end and take her in there and just shove a tooth. That doesn't work. And so I learned that we have a standard and we will be at that standard, but I can't force you to be at the standard. I've got to love you to the standard. And so, I was talking to my wife the other day. I think at this point in time, I could leave the weight room and the kids would look the exact same whether I'm there or not. And it's partly because I shifted from what I was doing, but at the end of the day, our kids are awesome anyways. So it's not like I'm just this guru that figured it out. We got great kids. But I really can see a difference in their buy-in just based on the fact that I'm trying to love them more and be more intentional about loving them. Listen, I've learned it's important to apologize when I'm wrong. That's a scary, vulnerable thing to do. And I'm not saying every situation you do that. But when I'm wrong and I feel like it really impacted the group or the session, I've had to learn to apologize and say, guys, I was wrong. And that's challenging. And it's really challenging for strength coach. You're like a type A, like you are alpha, you are in charge. And then you're going to tell the people you're leading, I screwed up and I led you wrong. And I just need you to forgive me and trust me next time. That is so hard. But I've had to do it a couple of times. And I think back of multiple things that I'm so embarrassed about, but I bring them up. One, to remind me I don't ever want to be that coach again. But two, so the kids will know that I have, if I'm flawed, it's okay for them to be flawed. And if it's okay for them to be flawed, then we can learn that failure is not this fatal thing and that we can learn from it and grow from it and improve from it. But if I don't show them what flaws and failures are, then how can I expect them as a high schooler to just say, oh, you know what? I failed and I'm okay with that. They don't like that. Nobody likes to fail. So I kind of tangented it off there, but that's kind of the goal and that's kind of what it looks like.
Those little side conversations and those little rabbit holes are sometimes the best. And I just have a few notes that I just want to make sure that we hit on a little bit. You said you present the standard, you want to be able to hold the standard. There's like 8 different things you said about the standard. And that's truly when you say, okay, go do this, rather than say, hey, let's see why we're doing it. And then, and just like going by step with the people and walking beside them. And you think about a leader, right? You can lead from the front, you can lead beside them, and you can lead from behind. And I think you have to do all of those to be a really good leader. And it's listeners hear us talk about this all the time. Gage is a big Focus 3 guy too, but Focus 3 podcast, it's Tim and Brian Kite. Now it's Urban Meyers on there too, but they talk about what it looks like for the standard and how that plays into culture. And that's truly what culture is, right? Is when you have a group or a collective people that buy into a certain standard or are held together by certain standards that they believe are something that should be agreed upon and push their, program or business or whatever forward. So when you say that you're going to be gone and it would look exactly the same, that means the standard has been set, right? And that means that there's a culture there, and that's exciting because not always does that happen, right? And you know if it's a weak culture or not is if you weren't going to be there, if it would be completely different, because that means that the culture is not really there. The culture is you're pushing the standard. It's not actually been set. So that's exciting for me to hear, because I would say if you're going to diagnose that, if you're a coach that's listening to this, you'd be like, okay, well, have I actually set a standard yet? Well, step out of the room for a while. Let's see what happens, right? And goes back just exact same. It's just like clockwork. Boom. That means you've set a standard. They know the culture. And hopefully that carries over to more things in life. They understand that. So I think that's awesome. And one of the things that you said, or maybe let's do this one first, a horse to water. So like, I just wrote this down because it made me think there's a lot of coaches that say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But I think maybe what they're doing is they're yanking the horse over to the water trough and then shoving their nose around the water and trying to drown them, instead of just letting them drink, and one of the things I think about when you say present the standard and try to, it's like trying to brush your daughter's teeth, you're not going to lead her to the toothbrush and say, hey, let's do it. It's like you probably pick up the toothbrush too and you start brushing your teeth and say, hey, this is pretty fun. You want to try it? Like that's one of the things where I hate when I hear coaches say that a kid is a drill killer. There's one of my coaches at Mount Vernon. He says, you can never say that. A kid is a drill killer, or it's the kid's fault, or this is the cards we were dealt, or whatever. It's like, oh, come on. There's so much more that we could be getting. So I love your mindset with all that. And then to throw that in there with failure isn't fatal. And then to be able to apologize when you're wrong. Those are just really, really, really core things to an awesome culture. And that pumps me up, because when you really look at stuff, if people get bigger, faster, and stronger, like what you were talking about, if their 40 is faster and if they get stronger, that's great. But if they can be champions in life, that's a different deal. That's cool. And that's really what we're trying to dive into. So, Coach, along the way, you're building a culture or you're getting started in strength and conditioning in general, there's challenges that you have to overcome. What's a tough hurdle that you've had in the past that, man, you're just like, it took a little bit to get over that thing, and it's something that you've grown from?
If I'm going to be honest, the biggest hurdle we've had is me. But and like I said, like I wanted it my way. I wanted to do it and that's not just a effort thing. Like we will do this exercise this way. I don't care about your opinion. You're not the strength coach. Like we will do it. What I ask, when I ask it, like I was the problem. There was no kid that was the problem. The kids were bucking the jerk that was trying to lead them. That I would buck that guy. Like they should be bucking that guy. You don't even follow a jerk. Like go find a better leader. Like in terms of it was a square peg in a round hole. Like I was trying. I wanted to squat. I wanted to bench. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this. And we were going to train a certain way. Oh, you play this sport. Oh, you play. I don't care. We're doing this thing this way. And that's not a bash against unified programs at all. Now, because we have a modified unified program, I guess, but I didn't care who you were. I didn't care how long you lifted. I didn't care this, or this. This is our program. You execute it. You execute it the way I want you to execute it. And if you don't, you're the problem, not me. So the biggest hurdle was me getting over myself and learning that I am not there for the kids to serve me. I'm there to serve the kids. And when I do that, we have a chance to be successful. But when I put me first and what I want to do and the way I want to do it, well, we suck and we lose and our culture sucks. You know, now the way I look at stuff, the way I program things, we're doing lower body strength, 2 legs, whatever that is. Maybe it's deadlift, maybe it's yoke bar squat, maybe it's front squat, maybe it's back squat, maybe it's goblet squat, maybe it's leg press. I don't know. It's whatever it is. It's rather than being so married to we're doing things this way, having the freedom to be flexible and having the willingness to say, hey, it doesn't, like, my job is not for my program to look awesome. My job is to help you become the best that you can become, whatever that looks like. And if my program's great for you right now, great, then we'll use it. But if I need to change it, it's not because like it was an ego shot before. So mentally I had to get over the thought that when I had to change the program, it was a shot at me personally. Or when a kid got hurt, or when a doctor said, you can't do this, or somebody said, I don't want to do that, it was a shot at me personally is what I thought. But that's not what it was. It was that this isn't working for that kid, and I need to be the person that figures it out. I need to be the one that adapts. Because if I'm going to tell these kids, well, by God, when you go out in live, this stuff's going to happen, and how are you going to respond? And I'm modeling, oh, I don't care, you're going to do my way anyways. What do I expect to get? Like I got what I modeled. And so then when I began to just shift my mind of, you know, and I care a whole lot about what we do in the weight room. I care a whole lot about what we do. But when I shifted it to, okay, I care about, okay, how can that kid improve this? Okay, that works for him, but not for him. And listen, it's chaotic. And sometimes I get stressful in the weight room because some kids are doing this and some kids are doing that. But I feel like, and I know at the high school age, you don't have to get fancy. You can do really basic stuff really well. But like when you've got seniors and freshmen and this kid that hadn't never done anything and this kid's played sports since they were born, and, you know, the willingness to be vulnerable to change and modify based on the kid and trust the kid to do it the right way. Like that was a hard thing too, trusting the kid, because I know what I was like as a high school kid. I know what my friends were like as a high school. I've seen high school kids. And so when we had my system and it was just like, nope, you do my way, my way, my way, my way. Well, they weren't doing it because they didn't like it, because the leader sucked. But when I changed it to, hey, let's find the best thing for you. And I put kind of ownership on them and put some trust into them that they would execute the plan that we devised for them. Holy cow. They started doing things great because it was their program, not mine. And so again, like I said, when I removed myself out of my ego, my pride, like that was the biggest hurdle. And I know that probably isn't where we wanted to go with that, but that's kind of what I view as I was the problem. And once I realized I was the problem, I could change the problem. But when I didn't know the problem, I tried to change everything else and nothing changed. For us to get fixed.
Yeah. Ego is an enemy.
Amen.
That's the thing, man. So I think that's awesome. You're the first person to answer like that. And, so I'm gonna have to mark that one down as a first. Coach, that was really cool. So, you talked about, hey, you know, like there's a lot of different ways to do this. Whatever is gonna work for one person doesn't mean it's gonna work for another. But you still have to have some string of thought. And I know you, because I kind of listened to you talk over the spring. I'm excited to learn a little bit about this. What are some of the programming methodologies that you follow and you've had success with? And I totally know that's a really open question. But whatever you want to hit on, I might dig a little bit deeper, and we'll have some programming discussion right here.
I'll tell you this: my programming has become pencil because of COVID, but also because of like I said, I got to be willing to change, willing to adapt, whatever the kid needs. Yeah, we follow a modified brick tier. You know, you take Joe Ken's stuff, Zack Roulette. I think he's still at Oklahoma. He was at Ohio when I got it. You know, it's kind of a mush up of those two. They're pretty similar programs anyways. You know, I kind of follow some Mike Boyle stuff. Some of that, I'm interested in a lot of the things he does. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I triphasic principles, we'll throw those in there, you know, and I get as crazy as I get on that is, you know, all right, we're going to do eccentric stuff and we're going to do some isometric stuff. And, you know, we do some French contrast with some really advanced kids, but I mean, it's like 7 kids and they've been here for a long time and they're really capable and able to do it. But so it's just kind of nitpicking, you know, like I said, we talked in the pre-show, What all have you talked on this podcast about? I've probably taken some of it and I've probably applied a little bit of it. You know, we tried to be, I try to, for sanity's purpose, I try to have a unified, like we are doing this general template for the day. Now that might mean this kid's doing a hang power clean and the other kid's doing a clean from the floor, or this kid's doing a high pull, or this kid's doing a low pull, or like it might be, but some sort of triple extension. And then we're going to move into some sort of probably split squat. Now, one kid might do a goblet, my dumbbell. We got the yoke bar. We got heels elevated. You got rear foot elevated. You got front foot elevated. You got, you name it, we throw it in there. But it's generally, our general template is some sort of tiered system, doing the total lower upper, alternating through there. And, you know, I've heard folks talk about like, well, I don't understand how you put the total body at not the very first thing. You know, I don't, total body doesn't have to be triple extension. I don't have to do that. You know, that can be a loaded carry. That could be some sort of anti-core. It could be all sorts of stuff with that stuff there. So we will do, I took from Mike Boyle, the sprint jump throw. Like we do that stuff every day first. Like that's athletic. We do our warm-up. We do a different kind of warm-up every day. We sprint straight. We sprint from a prone position, from a supine position, from a kneeling position, sideways. We do some sort of speed thing every day because that's what they do in the sport. At least the kids that I have, they move. They don't stand stationary and squat up and down. And I'm not saying squat's not important because it's super important. But like we move and then we throw and we jump and we apply force to things. We apply power to objects because that's what you do in sport. And then we do our strength work and we just kind of roll through right there. And then another thing, I guess this is more of a tool than a programming thing, but I've loved it. We just got them. We ordered them in March. On March 10th, we ordered them and then COVID hit. And so we didn't get them until November because of shipping. We got some push bands. So now we can actually see. I only got 5. We got 10 racks. So I got to be creative in how we implement them. But now we can start seeing listen, you hear people talk about video gamifying the lift. And you're like, oh, that sounds cool. I don't want to try that. I got to figure out. You put a dang push band and the kid wants to move it fast. And they're like competing like crazy because they can compete with their partner. They can compete with themselves because it shows you the last rep. Man, that stuff. And it's a tool. It's just a tool is all it is. But, man, it's awesome. It's been so much fun watching our kids compete with it. And we don't use that for every lift. We don't use that for we do one lift with it maybe per day. But it's been a really fun tool that has affected some of the programming we've done. So yeah, I know that was kind of like hey, here's every programming of ever is what we do. But like I said, if you're going to be flexible, you got to be able to do all that stuff. You got to at least have a base knowledge of it.
I read through Zack Roulette at one point. I think maybe he threw at Iowa State, and that was maybe the start of his strength career was at Iowa State. So I do think he's still at Oklahoma, but I'm not sure on that. But yeah. I jumped into some of his brick stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, this is very similar to Joe Ken stuff. And I think maybe somewhere along the way they connected or they coached together or something like that. So there were some influences there. But I like that. And the biggest mindset shift for me was when I started, instead of programming exercises, programming movement categories. And I need to have the progressions up and down it like you're talking about. Like if you're going to be in a split squat position, you can go rear foot elevated, front foot elevated, just a regular split squat. You know, like there's a lot of different variation and the way that you can progress that up or down. So I don't know, maybe if you're a young strength coach and you're really diving into exercise selection, I don't know if that's as important rather than like categorical of movements and using movements to drive how you program, or at least that's what's really helped me out because now it does not take me long to program. It does not take me long to really think about it and be, okay, well, if I want to sprinkle in some triphasic or if I want to sprinkle in some sort of other type of training, I can do that and it'll fit within my templates that I have and everything can morph the way that I need it to depending on where they're at in their season or if it's a freshman compared to a senior or whatever. We just change where we're at in the progression and that kind of seems like what you're talking about. Is that along the same line there?
Yeah, a good example. We've got a kid. So like what I've begun doing programming wise is like I might just put, all right, split squat. That's it. I don't put what it is. It's just split squat or RFE split squat, something like that. So my example, we'll use RFE split squat. We had a kid this summer, went up for a layup, came down, broke his ankle, and in the process of trying to recover from breaking his ankle on one side, he broke the other ankle as well, which is terrible luck. But he is an unbelievable kid, works his tail off, man. He's a kid you want around. His knee flexibility, because he had to be basically stationary for a couple months. Like he just doesn't bend. He can't bend anymore. He can't do a rear foot elevated split squat. And if he can, it hurts like crazy. So I could make him do it. But because now we just put split squat on there, okay, the kids know if you can do this weight, you do that. Or I'll just tell them, hey, you rear foot elevated day, you do, how much weight do you have? Okay, well, you do goblet, you do dumbbell. They kind of know based on what weight, which exercise they'll be in. Just kind of we just have a general outline for that. And they just, again, like you said, when we're working movements, I don't get upset when a kid can't do the exercise because they're not in there to do the exercise. They're in there to do the movements so that they can become good athletes. So rather than, oh, well, this kid can't do a goblet, rear foot elevated split squat, I'm pissed off. Oh, well, he's doing a split squat. He's doing unilateral strength. Mission accomplished. Whatever that looks like, that's what it looks like. But I think that, like you said, when we put the movements there, we can say, all right, this is what we want to accomplish. Then, okay, this works for accomplishing that goal. This works for accomplishing that goal. That's different. Okay, do that. It's okay. And it's not going to end the world. And I think, like we talked about earlier, I think your culture is better for it. The kids are better for it. The kids are getting more of what they need, not what I need, but what they need. But like you said, I was talking with a guy the other day about regressions and progressions. I said, man, I had my charts, throw them out the window, man, because it depends on your kids. What can the kid do? Like, no, I'm not saying don't know what your progressions and regressions are and have a plan, but at least for me, like, all right, for 1 month we're going to do goblet squat, then we're going to go to front squat, then we're going to back squat, then we're going to yoke bar squat, then we're going to do triphasic. Like, cool, I'd like to, maybe that's the progression I want to do with some of our young kids, but maybe some of them are ready earlier, maybe some are ready later, maybe this just doesn't work for that kid and I need to skip one. Well, I can't skip a step. That's the step. Like, you don't skip steps. Like, in my mind, I want to do it this way. But what's better for the kid? It's better for the kid that way than change it. Again, like that's if I'm the hurdle, I got to move myself out of the way so I can reach the kid and I can serve the kid.
I guess my one question with this, and this is the problem I've had, and I'm sure other coaches could weigh in on this also, is when I switch to that categorical and being able to regress a kid depending on what they need at that time. The only thing that I struggle with is because a lot of them haven't been training very long. Really get them to understand what is it that they need for the weight, right? So from a dumbbell goblet all the way to a safety squat bar or for whatever, if we're talking about rear foot elevated split squat, that is totally different in the way I can pick up and know exactly what I'm going to do for a set of 8. Okay? I have a really good idea because I've trained, but these kids have no idea. So what is some of the things that you do to make sure that they're progressing, they're pushing themselves, they understand that, for them to actually make an adaptation, we still have to be able to hit the ranges that we need to hit as far as, the intensity. So what are some of the ways that you do that, Coach?
So whatever it is we've got, and I'm going to stay on the split squat because that's the one we've been talking about. We have these on most of everything. If I have, and it depends on what grade you're in and if you're male or female or how long you've been doing it. So there's a couple other dependencies, but the main one, and this is pretty much everybody falls into this one. We'll say if it's 100 pounds or less, you do a goblet split squat. If you're 105 pounds to 200 pounds, you do a dumbbell split squat. If you're 205 to 300, you use the yoke bar. That's our next step. And if you're 305 or above, you do a Hatfield split squat. Now, sometimes I bump it down for some kids because, honestly, for our girls, I make it lower. I make it 50, 100, 150, so on and so forth because I know our girls aren't going to hold the 100-pound dumbbell. It's just probably not going to happen. Not that they can't or they're not able. because I got some girls that can, but it's different, you know. A guy was just going there, oh, coach, okay, I'll do it first thing. No, you're an idiot. That's not how it works. You don't just go get the biggest dumbbell because I said that's the standard. We work progressively up to the standard. But by having those little milestones, I can say, okay, when you reach this, then you get to do that. Plus, it lets me know, like, a yoke bar is kind of scary looking. Like, I had a kid the other day. We were getting it out for the first time. He's like, Coach, what are you doing with that thing? That thing's like, that's intense. You know, it's kind of a scary looking machine or a piece of equipment if you're a little kid. If we have those steps and milestones, now I know and they know that when they get to a certain step or a milestone, they can look back and know, holy cow, I am strong enough to do this. So it's not intimidating anymore. It also gives them a sense of pride, of accomplishment that I have done something to earn this. You know, kind of like we talked about, a little bit of competition, even though it's not a true day of competition. It's a long-term competition. Like, when can I achieve this by meeting X amount of standards? But I mean, there'll be days like, say, like I said, I just put split squat on there, and the kids kind of know what they need to do. There's also days when I say, all right, we're doing goblet today, we're doing dumbbell today, we're doing yoke bar today. So there's days that I'll say we're all doing this within reason. But that's worked for us. And the cool thing, you know, TeamBuildr, sponsor shout out. When a kid goes on there and it says split squat on their TeamBuildr and they change it to whichever one they're supposed to be on, it will tell them the exact weight they need to do. They can see the history on it, and they can see, oh, shoot, I did 45 pounds last week. I'm going to do 50 this week. I'm stronger. Next week, I'm going to do 55. I might do 65 next week because I feel really good. But they can see that linear growth. They can see the history of it. And like I said, with TeamBuildr, in 2020, kids can type on a phone faster than I can say anything or say, you need to change it. They've already changed it. But then it tells them exactly what they're doing. It shows all that, man. That's a great tool to have. And that took me trusting the kids to use their phones and use the iPads the right way. That was a couple of years. Like, for a long time, I just had a piece of paper, and I still kind of do sometimes. All right, I'm writing it down. You're doing this. Okay, you did this last week. And you don't coach that way. It just sucks. And so when I let the kids start using technology, then they could say, okay, I'm doing this one today, and then it pops up exactly their way. So there's no question. They know kind of what to do. I know sometimes folks don't do like auxiliary tracking per se. Let's track everything, you know, see what you're doing on everything. Maybe we want to stay the same, maybe we don't, but at least we know. And I don't think that's an overload, because sometimes you track everything. I mean, sure, not like we write down everything. We don't, you know, analyze everything, but it just helps guide kids when they know what they've done before. They can change and see where they're going based on what they've done.
Yeah, we track everything. I think there's benefit to that, because then you can see that accessory stuff. It's there for a reason. It's the main list, but I mean, truly, it's like if there's deficiencies, now we can see if there's a progression. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I like what your thoughts are with the kind of the standards or the milestones. I thought that was really smart. That's a really good way to do that. And I just try to think through like our situation with our equipment. I'm not entirely sure if that'd always work out. Say if we had a number of people that needed dumbbells, it just doesn't work out in our weight room. But if everybody had enough dumbbells, I think we're sitting pretty for those type of things. So like, I'm just trying to think through, like, if there's ever a chance that I get to rebuild the weight room, I'm really looking at like, okay, if I was going to be able to program anything for anyone in a station, you know, can we do it? And but that's down the road, right? So
hey, listen, if you don't have a dream, if you don't start with the end in mind, you gotta know where you're working to.
Truth. Okay. You already went into it a little bit. Maybe just keep on rolling with this. Your favorite resources, tools, softwares, apps, or systems that you utilize for your training or your workflow on the back end? What are you doing?
So again, TeamBuildr shout out right here. I use them. I've used them since I got here, but the school wanted a data tracking software, and I didn't think I could do it in Excel efficiently. So I started with TeamBuildr, and I kind of wanted something that a delivery system. Even though we didn't have iPads, even though we weren't going to use phones, I was going to print them off. And we do, for some classes, we still print things off and hand it out to them. But TeamBuildr, man, once I learned how to like save workouts and stuff, listen, I wrote the soccer program, the softball program a long time ago. Yesterday, I loaded them from now, today, till the state tournament. They're done. Now, I'll change it if I need to, but the time was already put in when I had time, not like scrambling to do it at Christmas break. When I had time to sit down and thoughtfully spend time writing a program that would maximize their performance, we're good. Like I've saved it. So now next year I can pull it back up. I'm like, okay, let's look at this. I didn't like that. Let's adopt that. Let's change that. But a good example too today, volleyball comes in. I had, we were doing hang clean, 4 sets of 65 is what I typed in. Oh shoot. I typed in the wrong thing. Pulled up my iPad. That was the first girl that came in this morning. Pulled up my iPad, changed it. No problem. But like, what happens if that's a percentage? And I've typed the percentage in wrong. So then I got to sit there and do math for all the kids. We'll just say, just kind of go up. Now we can still kind of stay precise. If I just go on my iPad, change it up real quick, it takes 20 seconds. So TeamBuildr, love TeamBuildr. I cannot recommend them enough. Listen, my name's got to be a cuss word right now because I've been emailing them so much, asking questions that I'm sure that they've answered somewhere or to somebody else. But I keep emailing them and they keep answering me with great customer service. So I appreciate them for almost putting up with me right now. But like another technology piece that we got, like I said, was that push band. And again, it's a tool. It's a tool. It is not the answer to everything. And it's important that I view it as a tool because if I ever switch to, this is the answer, well, then we're going to be flawed, and we're going to have holes in our system. And right now we're only using it on the yoke bar squat. We're not using it on everything else just because I'm a little nervous because we just got them. Like the front squat and the bench press, like there's not really a good place to put it. So when you rack it or the hang clean, I'm just getting nervous with the kids racking it. Not that they're not smart and they can't do it. We've had them for a month. I would like to have them for longer than just a month. So right now we're just squatting with them. In my mind, I was thinking about how we would use it. And I was like, okay, I started off, all right, if we're going to do velocity-based training, our kids need to be X strength, this, and we need to have these standards to do that. But then I was like, one of the things I struggle with the most is teaching our kids intent of moving the bar. And I talk about it, and I talk about it, and I talk about it, and our kids know what I want them to do, but how do I quantify it? Oh, that was something we talked about this summer. Identify, quantify, evaluate. Okay, I identified what I want. I want to move the bar with great intent. Okay, well, how do I quantify that? Well, Coach, I moved it really fast. Oh, that's not quantified. Now I have a little iPad that tells me how fast you moved it. You can't say, Coach, I moved it fast. No, it was 0.2 meters per second. That wasn't fast. I know what it is. So then I can evaluate. Are we developing the quality that we want to develop? Okay, yes or no? Yes, great. We will continue doing that. No. Oh, now we adapt. And then we identify, quantify, evaluate. We keep that circle going. Keep that little cycle going. But that's been so fun for me because like we do APRE stuff. And I know I didn't mention that earlier because I named every other programming tool. We do APRE. Man, our kids, they have these funny memes about me because I don't have just squat or just bench. Like it's APRE this and that, and it's eccentric. But so we'll do the APRE, we'll say 6. And then on set 3, you're going 6 to 10 reps. You do not stop unless it's too slow. If it's too fast, I'm okay with that because we'll add weight, we'll change. When it is too slow, we stop immediately. No questions asked. That's it. You're done. Our kids do not want to lose. They want to win. They want to get to 6 reps because 6 is the supposed minimum. And then they want to get to 10 because I said you can go up to 10 if you're fast enough. So then they're competing. Now, they know that technique is number 1. I'm not saying they're in there grinding St. Louis arch backs and they are competing. They want to beat the person that they're partnered with. They want to beat themselves because it tells you every single rep. Was it faster? Was it slower? Like I don't want it to just be in range. I want it to be faster than the last time. I want to be faster than I want to be faster every time. And so the cool thing about the push band is based on what they did, it can give recommendations for what they should do next time. And so that's really, it helps me when I go to tell a kid, hey, we need to stay at that weight. Coach, I want to go. Well, look at, push. The push band says you need to stay too. Or I say, hey, listen, girls, we need you to go up and weight. I know you guys are all going to do 65 pounds on every single set because we don't change the weight. But we're going to do, oh, you did 12 reps at 65. We're only trying to hit 6. So we're going to change weight significantly. But you did, okay, you struggled. You stay here. But it allows, again, a little more individualization. So now we can identify which kids are just strong, which kids are actually working some power. We can do some speed work, man. So those two things, man, those have really they've been fun to work with. The push bands have been really fun because competition levels are they're through the roof. And listen, they're not that expensive. If they are, it's like $400 for one little band, and you got to get an iPad. And I understand. I got $36 in my account. I understand budget constraints. I know how it goes. But like, if you put the effort into fundraising just a little bit, or talk to your coaches, listen, you tell your volleyball coach that this is going to help you become powerful and your vertical jump's going up, because it will. And you're not lying to them. Talk to your coaches. Like, your coaches want their kids to succeed. If you'll talk to them and if they say no, it's not against you. They just don't have the money, and that's fine. Go fundraise it. They really are a fun tool if you can get it. Make sure you got the standard stuff first. Like, I need dumbbells still. I should have done those first probably. But, the coaches were willing to buy this, not dumbbells. So we took the push bands. But, man, it's just fun because, again, competition. We're trying to teach our kids, again, we're going to compete on the field. We got to compete in life. I got to go learn this job. I got to go win the job. I got to go keep the job. I got to go make the sale. I got to go reach this kid. It's a competition every day. So if we teach that in what we're doing every single day, and if that means technology to do it, great, because our kids love technology, and I can track it. So I can say, hey, we can show them over time growth. Kids love to see growth and improvement. So those are two that I've really, really, really enjoyed using recently.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. And I think, just so the people know that, TeamBuildr is a sponsor. We'll plug them as much as we can, but it is helpful, right? Like, we hear countless coaches talk about that. And then Push was a sponsor for the show for a while too, because I was super interested in them, and we ended up pulling trigger on push bands too. Huge fan of push bands. Kids are too, like you said. Gamify stuff to make it like a video game, and it's like you're trying to hit levels and you keep on rolling. It's a lot of fun. You talked about a little bit of like what we talked about this past spring and summer with system-based training. I just want to make sure if people are interested in that, and this is not a sponsor, but it is something that I did go through and I thought was pretty good. If you want to check out what systems-based training looks like, and Coach, you could talk about it just a little bit too if you want. Just check if you search system-based training. I think that will come up. You can check into that because it's some stuff that will just make you think and really give you an idea of how to progress forward. How do you make the most important thing the thing that you work on at that point in time, and then just keep on moving forward. Okay, it's just like it's like prioritize and execute is maybe what Jocko would say. But anything to fill in there with that, Coach?
I think, and we talked about it in the spring, that I can be identify, quantify, evaluate. Like that, just understanding that changed how I looked at stuff. Because, again, it was like, this isn't working. Let's get rid of all of it. Maybe not everything. Maybe there's just one thing that's not working. So let's identify what we are trying to accomplish. And if we don't know what we're trying to accomplish, then we can't figure out if we need to change anything. But, so identify it. We want to do this. Okay? Well, scientifically, what's the best way to do that? Or what's the best way for this kid to do that? Okay, now we quantify it. We achieve it. Okay, great. No, yes. Then we evaluate. We go from there. Knowing that it's a continuous circle. It's not a linear thing. When I change my mind from linear, okay, to here, good. Check. We're done. No, we're not. Because there's new kids coming in. And there's new stimulus coming in. And there's new challenges coming in. It's a constant circle. And when you shift your mind to that, identify, quantify, evaluate. Okay, just keep going through those three things. Well, now you're constantly finding things that you need to improve that you might not have seen previously because you're just looking at a broad thing, whereas now I can hone in on one thing at a time. Okay? If I'm looking at 10 different things, it's overwhelming. But if I can see one thing I need to fix, I can fix it. If I don't need to fix it, I can go to the next thing. By doing it that way, now we have this circular plan of growth and development and improvement. And I think that was the biggest thing for me that I took away from it.
So, so just to wrap that up, it's Coach Angela James. systems-based training. If you guys want to check that out, coaches, I think he's out of the country right now. He's coaching, I think maybe in Germany. Is that right?
I think it's where he is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you check into his stuff, it is something that will change the way that you look at training. So cool that way. All right, Coach. This is kind of the namesake of the show. We ask it almost every single show. How are you making the big time where you're at?
I think for me, and we've talked about it a whole lot, I think the big time, like if you think big time stuff, like you're thinking about like, okay, big time football, that's NFL. You think big time this, big time that. People know your name. The big time is Dobyns-Bennett to me. So I want to know these kids' names. I want to know their stories. Like the big time is like the celebrities. My kids, I want to treat them like celebrities. I want to love on them and love on them and love on them, not just in the weight room. I want to go support. I love going to watch them compete. I like going to watch the choir thing. I want the big time, John McKenna might have been on this podcast, might have been on a different one. He talked about being more than a strength coach. To me, that's what making big time is. To make this big time, I can't just be a strength coach. I have got to ingrain myself in the community here. I got to ingrain myself in the lives of my kids and make sure that they know that, yeah, I'm in the weight room every day with them, but I'm here to be a part of their lives. I'm here when they come back in 20 years. I'm here, when something bad goes on, when something good goes on. I think big time is making it more than I'm not just the guy in the weight room that's yelling at them and making them do to squat stuff they don't want to do. I think making it big time is being so ingrained in everything that we do and loving on them in every way that I can that, these kids, if it just changes one kid's life, then that's big time. But I think that's the way to go about it.
That's awesome stuff, Coach. Love it. The thought that you kind of flip that around there, and once again, you hit the most unique one that I've heard for a while, is to know somebody's name makes you big time. And if you can do that for the people that are in your community, in your school district, I think that's a pretty cool way to do that. So, Coach, to finish this up, we've got our finisher questions. We got 5 of them here. And right after that, you can kind of tell the listeners the best way to get a hold of you, to contact you if they want to further the conversation. So first question here, what's your favorite book?
I thought about this one a little bit. I'll tell you this, when I first got hired back here, I had a job that I had to sit in the classroom for a little bit. So there was study hall time, so I had some free time. And I read it here, and man, I swear it was written for a strength coach. And I'm not saying strength coaches are dumb, because they are some of the most brilliant people I know, but it's grammatically incorrect, and it's just written like he spoke it. And it just, the way it read, how it spoke to me. But it's called Burn Your Goals. And it was just the way an approach to leadership, surrender the process or surrender the outcomes, commit to the process, having a great attitude regardless of circumstances, or some things he talks about in there. And man, it's an easy read. It's kind of like a parable, but man, it makes sense to me. It's written in a way that I can understand, I can apply. And what I really liked about it was page and a half chapters. Hey, guess what the kids heard that afternoon? Exactly what I read. They basically read the book with me because it was short and digestible, and it just made sense. And I go back to it time and time again, and I get tons of value out of it every time I see it.
Yeah, I want to pull that one up. Somebody recommended that one to me also, and I like that one. It's actually a student back in the day that recommended that, and I'd read it's Joshua Metcalf and one other guy.
I think it's Jamie Gilbert. Right? Jamie Gilbert, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so those two, and I think maybe they paired up for another book after that. But I read Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Yeah, that's a great book too. Again, kind of written in ways I can understand it.
Right, the parable type thing. I think it's just people really understand stories and be able to apply that to your life. So I'm gonna have to pull that. I like that. All right, who's the person that's influenced you the most?
Same answer a lot of folks know, but my dad. My dad absolutely. We've kind of got this ritual on Friday mornings. And me and Dad are weird, and I guess strength coaches are all weird too. We're early birds. So if our second daughter gets up and it's 3 a.m, I'm up. I'm not what am I gonna go back to sleep for 30 minutes? No, I'm getting up. I'm just going in, and we'll go ahead and lift and get everything done. But I know that if I call my dad, I can talk to him at that because he's up. That's just what he does. Now at 7 o'clock in the morning, he's back. He's asleep. He's done. I ain't getting hold of him. But anytime in the weird early morning I can call and talk, and we've had a ton of just good conversations, and that's been from when I was little to now, and just it just means a lot to me, the amount of effort and time that he's poured into me. And I just kind of hope that my name is actually Tilden. That's his name. It's my grandfather's name. I just hope that I honor them, both my dad and my granddad, just honor their name by having it, but that's because of the effort and the time that both of them poured into me. I hope that I can pour that into my kids. But again, I just hope that I'm bringing honor to their name by sharing it.
That's cool. That hits deep, and that's something that when you talk about somebody that's influenced you the most, parents a lot of times fill that gap, and I think that's awesome, man. How about your favorite quote?
I actually wrote this down because it came up in my devotion this morning. So if you don't, I'm going to read the quote's short, but I want to read something with it that I thought just really, I was like, gosh, this is perfect timing. And I got this from my high school head coach. He actually hired me back here. He's a huge reason I'm even at Dobyns-Bennett. But he always said, coach them hard, but love them harder. And he talked about, hugging your kids' necks and telling them you love them, because you don't know if anybody's going to do that for them. But coach them hard and love them harder, I thought was summed up really well. This morning I was reading Ephesians chapter 3, 18 and 19. It says, and may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it's too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. And the thought that came from that was just, without love, you can't be complete. And if my job on earth is to display the love of Christ, then that's what I got to do. I got to love on them. I've got to coach the heck out of these kids. And I've got to hold them to a standard, because there is a standard. Okay, I can't just accept whatever. Like, if you're going to be here, we are going to do it this way, and we are going to be great. Like, if you choose to be in here, you're choosing to be great. If you don't want to be great, choose to be out of here, or I'll choose it for you. But that's what you chose it. So we're going to be great, and we're going to hold that standard. And by God, we will coach you so hard. There'll be days you're like, God, he hates me. But I promise you that I love you harder. And we as humans are not complete without, that love of God. And so I've got to show that in the way that I'm coaching our kids. So that's kind of where I go with it.
I love it, Coach. When you can bring purpose into what you do and how you do it, I think that's things that will set people apart. That's things that will push people to be better. And honestly, that's when we can get, I don't know, when I start thinking about this, and my kid or my kids now, and my student athletes, and where I want to be and how I want to display Christ's love in my life for those people. If that's at the forefront of your mind when you're coaching people, I think that really puts you in a position. You were talking about basically apologizing. That's being humble, right? Failure isn't final. Knowing that there's something that's greater ahead for us, no matter what. There's always that hope. When you talk about a standard, and that there's somebody that already set a standard for us, and that standard will never be broken by anybody else, but we can strive for that every day. Like all these things, pushing back to like the culture of our weight room is so much sourced in the love that we can share in Christ. And so not, like if you're a listener and you're like, okay, they're going on this big Christian tangent, like I'm just telling you, this is part of who I am. And I love hearing it from Coach, and Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to say that, because now I'm thinking, all right, this is a quote that I'm gonna have to live by there too, is coach them hard and love them harder. I love it. That's good. How about your favorite hobby outside of training?
Well, right now, I'll tell you what, COVID like has made me want to just travel. That's all I want to do. Like, I don't care where, I just want to travel because I can. How about that? How's that for a hobby? I really, I feel bad because like I spent so much of my childhood just doing like sports. Like I wish I'd have done other stuff, man. So now, like any chance I get outdoors, I'm trying to go outdoors. If it's biking, I'm gonna go bike. If it's walking, we're gonna walk. My little 6-month-old, man, if you walk outside, she's like a turkey in the rain. She just sticks her head up and she's just looking around. It don't matter what's out there. She's pumped. So I'm going to take her outside because she's pumped when she's outside. Hiking, canoeing, kayak, anything like that, man. Any chance that I've been able to get recently, I've been trying to do it more and more. Not that I've not enjoyed it long term. I'm like, gosh, I got to really make sure that I'm diversifying my life. And it helps my wife. You know, she grew up in the Smoky Mountains, and that's like that's what she wants to do. It's what she loves to do. Man, it's peaceful. Like in the world we live in, of constantly going and constantly going and constantly going, to kind of get out in the woods with no service, on your own, alone thoughts, or, you know, like me and my sister went this weekend. You know, she lives in Louisville. I don't get to see her. So we had 2 or 3 hours together just to talk. And we don't get to talk that much. And so it's just really getting time to pour into relationships is another great thing. I think, you know, getting outside, it really just, you get to focus on the people around you, not the phone. And I'm bad about being on my phone, not the stuff going on at school, because I'm bad about thinking about that too. But I get to really focus on who I'm with. And if it's by myself, I got to fix myself. But if I get to spend time with my wife, I get to spend time with my wife. And that's the time we cherish, you know. So that outdoor stuff, I guess, would be my hobby.
That's good. To be present in that moment is a big deal. And I think a lot of times being outside, being out in the wilderness, all that type of stuff really helps you get to that point. And I'm a little jealous right now. It's getting pretty cold here, so I'm not outside like that. So, Coach, the last one. This one helps us continue to build our list of coaches. But who's a small school coach who's killing it and deserves a shout out?
There's a couple on my list, but I'm going to stay with just one. Craig Owens up at Anderson County. Man, he's just doing some really good things there, and they've got some cool growth going on up there. I really enjoy talking and just seeing, you know, what's the next thing you're working on? What do you know, how do you do this? How do you change that? I think, you know, and you can see on the field with their success, like they've been successful, especially recently since he's been there, and they've had some good kids. But man, I just think just the way he's getting after them, I think it's really impressive.
That's awesome. I'm trying to get the name down just so I keep it. All right, and then the last little bit here, Coach. What's a good way for people to reach out to you, to connect with you, and to learn more about your situation and what we talked about? So
I know you said, you know, we talked earlier, like, you know, you can pretty much get on Twitter and Instagram and see what everybody's doing. If you get on my Twitter and Instagram, you're probably going to see my daughters and family on Instagram. And on Twitter, you're going to see like the same stuff, but maybe retweets of DB stuff as well. It's like, if you want to see what we do, like, you're not going to see much of that. I can't. I'm not good enough I'm not a social media guru. I can't do it. So not that I would love to be able to. I can't. But Instagram, Twitter, I think they're Coach_Fleming 55. They might have changed at some point. I think it's those. We have a DB_strength Instagram and a Twitter. Again, that's all DB. Like, if you want to know what's going on at Dobyns-Bennett, by God, you get on there. But it's probably not the weight room just because I'm not good at it. My cell phone number, it's 423-863-3117. If you text me and I open it and I don't respond immediately, I probably am going to forget. It doesn't have an unread button. So it's just not that I don't care, not that I don't try to. I my mind going to too many places. That would be a good place to start. But email is probably the best because I can hit unread and remind and it keep popping up. And it's just Z Fleming, Fleming at k12k.com. If that's probably your best bet, because I can open it, unread it, remind, schedule it, and I've got a chance to actually to get back to you. That's something I wish. Unread for messages. I wish. Man. That'd be nice. Sometimes I keep it popped open in my notifications and I don't read it just so that I make sure I go back to it. Yep, I do the same thing. And then, son of a gun. I'm like, shoot, I should have responded to that text message a month ago. Coach, I appreciate talking with you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I know getting kids down and all that and doing it in the evening, and you get an early start tomorrow, all that type of stuff. Just to take time out of your day, it's much appreciated. And I'm excited for people to listen to this one. I thought you did a great job, and excited to pick your brain a little bit more about some of the things we talked about. So this is good. Absolutely. I appreciate it and enjoy it. You have a good night. Thanks, Coach.